Today we're going to talk about studying in the UK, how different that is from France, and towards the end of this video I will give you my top tips on how to have a successful year studying in the UK. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, leave me a comment. We're looking at making one video in English, one video in French every week, so don't miss out. Alright, let's go. So to start, let's talk about where I personally studied. I started studying in Socratic University in France, where I did a normal English degree. Then I got an Erasmus exchange at the University of Birmingham in the UK. Then I did a master's degree at the University of York, and then at the same time I went on a small course at the London School of Economics. So if we look at the number of years, I studied 3 years in France, 3 years in the UK. Overall, there's 4 universities, so there's a lot to talk about. The great thing is also that I didn't only experience the UK as an exchange student, which is very different than an actual student, so we'll talk about that as well. Alright, the first very big difference with France is actually the number of hours. You should know that I studied mostly social sciences, so that's sociology, political science, economics, those kind of studies. And the key here is it's very different than in France. In the UK, you can have 4 to 6 hours of studying a week, whereas in France, when I was doing my degree in English, I had roughly 18 hours of learning time. And yes, you heard me correctly, I said 6 hours of courses a week. That's because usually you have 3 modules and every module is 2 hours. Obviously that depends the department you're in, so I'm talking about social sciences here, but it also depends the year you're in. So mostly I'm talking 3rd year of university, the one I did in the UK during my Erasmus, but also when you're doing a master's degree, when you have much less classes as well, but you have more personal research. So you have all this free time, right? You only need to go to 6 hours of class. In my case, at some point I only had classes on Wednesday morning, so I had all the remaining of the time to do something else. What do you do with all this time? So the first thing that's very big in the UK is actually the social life, and I'm not only talking about going to party or having a drink. I'm talking about the whole experience of doing stuff outside of uni or with uni, which is not necessarily classes, but will kind of help you in your career, or you will learn something or develop. For example, at Birmingham University, there was around 200 societies. Those are groups of students you can sign up to. Some of them you subscribe or you pay a fee to get in, and then you take part in the activities. Simple example is football, right? You would go to the football one, basketball or anything, but they had very, very crazy stuff like skydiving. You could go rock climbing, you could go on trips around the world if you had enough money to pay for that particular fee. There was Harry Potter societies, anime societies. There was an Islamic society that would do crazy meals on Ramadan. So really, really a lot of things going on outside of your classes. The second thing you will do with all that free time, that's what was in the thumbnail, you will be reading quite a bit. Personally, I did English literature in France and I did English literature in the UK, in Birmingham, and that was a completely different story. I'll give you an example. I studied Shakespeare in France. We were meant to do that for a whole semester. And in France you do that, you will study only one play. Right, you might study Romeo and Juliet, but that's the only thing you will really focus on that. In the UK though, every week you had a different play. So during the whole semester, you might be reading 8 different plays. So the reading is really, really key in the UK. For example, for my degree, I would sometimes read anywhere between 100 pages to 300 pages a week. So yeah, there's a lot of reading. You have to be ready to do that. It's even worse in some, obviously, departments. So literature has a lot of books. It's actually not physically possible to read all the books that they give you. So you have to pick your challenges. You have to, decide what you want to focus on. But then Other departments are even more impossible. So for example, law will give you an insane amount of reading, and you have to choose which one you want to prioritize because you just can't read it all. And the reason you have all this free time and you learn so much by yourself is really because the learning methodology is different in the two countries. In France, you are taught something by a teacher, and they will tell you, this is what you need to learn, this is what I'm teaching you, learning by heart, and you will memorize a lot of things. That's a little bit the method. In the UK, it's quite different. You are given some guidelines, some path you can take, and then it's up to you to do further research. And this is something that has a name. We call it the Socratic Teaching method. This method is not to necessarily give answers to students, but actually raise questions and empower students to find the answers themselves. So to give you an idea of the general 1 hour session we would have in the UK, the teacher would give you a topic or a series of topics. They would give you a reading list, usually a number of scientific articles you need to read, anywhere between 2 for very nice teachers to 20 or 30 articles that you obviously can read, but you have to pick some. And based on that, you would prepare some arguments to answer that question, and the class will really be a discussion or a debate. You will debate based on the questions. The teacher might not even say anything if everyone is well prepared, but just be a sort of moderator and guide the discussions, or maybe say that this was actually incorrect towards the end of the session. But the key idea is that the students, they really do the learning, they do the class, and they're prepared. Therefore, that's how they learn, by doing, by interacting and doing their own work, rather than just receiving knowledge from an outsider, so to speak. So my personal experience with this method, I think this is really good. Not to say I was always a fairly serious student, so I would prepare my things, but I had many friends who came in exchange, and they kind of didn't do any work because it wasn't required, right? The method in the UK is really, you have the choice, you are given keys to learn, but you're not forced to learn anything or to go the extra mile. So it's really down to you. I think I see it as a very entrepreneurial way of learning, where you are given that path, you are given the tools, but then it's down to you to actually do anything. You could show up to the classes having read none of the readings. Some of the teachers, they will pick it up, some of them won't, but at the end of the day, they won't care that much from my experience. Maybe that's because I was an exchange student, but again, there was non-exchange student in the class. Some of them would never do the readings because they were not interested or not serious at some point, or they were doing other readings in other classes. So it's really down to you how much you put in, how much effort you get, and how much you get in return at the end. And that translates into the exams, the way you are going to be assessed. Most of the time, this is not actually an exam. You will be doing the most famous essays, right? Essays are research questions that you will be developing in a paper, usually between 2,000 and 5,000 words, where you will have to develop an argument, develop some hypothesis, and then engage that argument and then find a conclusion. In many cases, the students can actually develop their own essay questions. So when they are studying a certain course, they will have, let's say, 8 weeks of courses altogether. From week 4, usually you are given your essay questions. So those are choices you have to make between 4 to 8 essay titles, right? Those are the subjects you can develop during your essay. That will be your mark for the full module usually. But you can also ask the teacher and develop a question yourself that you really are interested in developing. There's 2 good things with this. The first one is that you really pursue what you are interested in. I can give you an example. I had a specific class on international security. There was one question on drones I was very interested in working on, and I just developed that area because that's what I was interested in to begin with. The second thing is that you can start to actually specialize When you think about it, in the real world, everyone has access to Google or any kind of information on the internet. The UK is more about how are you going to use that information and create something yourself. So they give you weeks of work that you can do at home with internet, with any resources you can use to produce that essay or that little paper. If you do it well, you can really decide to specialize because you will pursue only those subjects you're interested in. But that also means that you can only work on a specific area of your subject. If you're working like me in political science, you can, for example, only focus on one country or one political system and forget about all the others. You can forget about most of the readings and just work for your final grade, which is going to be your essay. Some people do that and they end up actually not learning that much around the course because they will just think strategically, how am I going to get the best grade? And that's by being very focused on one area and preparing early and prioritizing against the remaining of the course. So to recap on how we learn in the UK, it's a lot about critical thinking. Critical thinking is key. It's about how you are going to use the knowledge you're given, not how much knowledge you will get. You don't need to memorize that many things. It's mostly how you're developing an argument, how you're presenting your ideas, and how you can interact with the existing literature, what people who really know what they're talking about have been saying, how you assess what they're saying, and how you add a bit of a flavor from yourself, from the ideas you already have. Now I want to talk a little bit about the different universities I went to and the price tag. You might be wondering, if you have so little hours, if you do so much work by yourself, how much can that all cost? It's often very expensive and still people don't go to the classes or they don't do the work. At the end of the day, is it really worth it? This is what we're discussing now. So for the first start of my journey, I went to Birmingham University. I was an Erasmus exchange. That means I didn't have to pay anything. I had a scholarship. I was very lucky. Thank you very much, the European Union. However, people in my class who were students from the UK had to pay for their undergraduate degree. All undergraduate degrees are pretty much the same price because they capped to about 10,000 euros a year. So you have to pay 10,000 euros every year and you will finish your undergraduate degree with about 30,000 euros in debt, or to have been paid towards your first degree. Then I went to do a master's in York, and that's where the prices are very different. There is no law that caps the price of master degrees in the UK, so they really fluctuate between universities and courses, and that's how you can have something that's a bit more value than in another city, or maybe that course is very prestigious but still not that expensive. This is where you can find a deal that works for you. So the range in prices for master's degree can go anywhere from about £5,000, from the very lowest of the low, you will find very few of these, to 35,000 euros or £1,000 a year, right? So this is quite expensive. It's worth noting that in the UK, Master 2, the second year of your master degree, doesn't exist. There's only one master's, and it's about a master and a half from the French equivalent. So the French equivalent is twice, so it's 2 years of 60 ECTS credits, the way studies are assessed at the European level. The masters in the UK is actually 90 credits, which is pretty much a master and a half from the French one. What about the price of the masters I picked? I decided to go to the University of York because it was a good university but also very good value. The master degree was actually only £6,000 for the whole master degree. I decided to do it part-time, therefore I paid £3,000 every year and I studied around it. The university and campus of York was very different from Birmingham. I really liked the Birmingham campus because it was very centralized and everything was nearby. The University of York was a bit spread out, therefore you needed a bus to go from one side to the other and it could take quite a long time. You should also know that campuses in the UK pretty much have everything. At the University of Birmingham, for example, there was 3 banks, 2 shops, there was a market for vegetables, quite a few restaurants, a pub, and quite a few things in general. So if you really wanted to, you could basically never leave campus and have everything you wanted around yourself. Towards the end of my master's degree, I decided to study a little bit more. I was wondering if I should do a PhD, and I was considering quite a few schools. I decided to go do a short course in one of those schools. You might know it. It's the London School of Economics. It's fairly well known in the UK, and deciding to go there for a short course. Now, even though this university was very prestigious, the courses were actually not that different, and the way of learning is still the same. One thing that was very different was the price tag. That university, or that short course, was €1,000 a week. So yes, insanely expensive, and we touched upon this. The price of education in the UK is very different. In France, if you go to university, it is pretty much free. If you go to a business school, you might be paying, or if you go to a specialized school like a private engineering schools, you might be paying for those as well. In the UK though, you pay for pretty much everything. University is about 10,000 a year when you're doing your undergrad, and then it can go super high when you do your master's degree, up to 30 or 40,000 a year. However, one key difference is that in France, we know that universities have a little bit of a stigma for the employment market. We don't find that in the UK. If you go to university, or if you go to the business school side or part of the university, it doesn't really matter if you're doing economics, or if you're doing sociology, or if you're doing a business degree, or if you're doing an engineering degree. It doesn't really matter in terms of how prestigious people will see it. They'll see the name of the university, and that's what matters the most. We don't have a division between the business schools and the university here. The university is really where you learn whatever you want to learn. There is a lot more to cover, and I will make dedicated videos on studying in the UK. We'll look at different themes, but also the 3 universities I attended and how different that was. If you don't want to miss out, don't forget to subscribe and follow my videos for more content. Alright, before I let you go, we'll talk about a few tips if you come to study in the UK. Tip number 1, don't be overwhelmed. You will have a lot and you won't be able to do everything. You might think that you have to. No, you actually don't. You have to be a little bit strategic on how you prioritize your time and your efforts. You won't be able to do all the readings. You won't be able to attend all the events you want to attend, and you won't be able to join all the societies you want to join. Make sure you plan and prioritize, otherwise you might feel overwhelmed. Number 2, I would tell you to wait before you specialize. If you are just starting to study in the UK, for example, you might study sociology or economics, and you really want to study one aspect of those fields, wait to do that a little bit. Why do I say that? Because you might think it will be easier to have great grades if you specialize in one topic. The problem is you probably will be a little bit lazy and think that you actually know the topic and don't do enough research, and at the end of the day, the content you will produce for your essays won't be as good. If you want to specialize, wait a little bit, go into your 2nd or 3rd year, or ideally do a master's degree to really push your knowledge. My 3rd tip is to try to benefit a maximum from what the university has to offer. There is a lot of events. There are a lot of great events you want to be part of. For example, myself, during my years at uni in the UK, I met quite a few prime ministers and ministers in general. Last time Hillary Clinton came to London, to the LSE, there's a lot of great events going on. You want to take advantage of that. There's also great events around how to build your CV, career advice, how to sell. There's also great events on how to build your CV, career advice, how to build your personal brand online. All of those workshops and events are really good and you don't want to miss out. They will be part of your learning and you will use them once you left the university. this is all for today. As always, if you enjoy this content, leave me a like, subscribe if you still haven't. If you come into the UK, let me know, put in the comments when you're coming, which university you're going. Maybe I can put you in touch with people or friends of mine who went there. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Yes, I am experiencing with the lightning. In another video on studying in the UK, we'll talk about actually how difficult it is compared to France. We'll talk about the grading system and how that all works, and also I will share my personal experience of how much work I needed to put in to become the top student in my class. See you then.